So after talking about your conditional statement, if-then statement, we talked about the converse, where you just take the hypothesis and the conclusion, what's after if and what's after then, and you just switch the two of them around. Now we're going to talk first about our inverse, okay? Your inverse is going to, in order to write the inverse here, what we're going to do is we're going to take our conditional statement, our if-then original statement. Okay, we're not going to switch anything, just leave it alone, just take our conditional statement, and we're going to negate both the hypothesis and the conclusion. The negate means it's like taking a positive and making it negative, or a negative and making it positive. So if I said, I am happy, I am not happy, would be negation. Okay? And now if let's say, I am not going to run. To negate it, I would say, I am going to run. So it's just like if you already have a negative, you negate, it cancels out, make it a positive. So you have to keep an eye out for any negated words that are already in there and remove them. Let's just go ahead and jump straight in. Hypothesis, conclusion. We're going to rewrite this conditional statement as the inverse by negating both hypothesis and conclusion. First, we need to identify. If it is cold outside, then it will snow. Hypothesis, it is cold outside. Okay? Conclusion, it will snow. Again, I've got those same colors that I used with inverse and converse. Obviously, if you did one of them, with the converse, if you did this at home, or you did this at school, the first one at school, now this one's at home, then just grab two colors, okay? Here we have if P, then Q. We need to take the hypothesis, if it is cold outside, and negate it. Make it the opposite. Using that word cold, though. So all we're doing there is rewriting, saying if it is not cold outside. Okay? So here we have if it is not cold outside. You could put if it isn't. Okay? You can put the contractions, that's fine. Okay? But we need to see that this right here is negated hypothesis because of that word not. All right? And we're still using the hypothesis first. All right? All we're doing is just negating. We'll put, now we need to take it will snow and make it the opposite. It will not snow, or it won't snow. But make sure you put then. If you do not put then, it is incorrect. They are still if-then statements. So then, it will not snow. And again, anytime you need to, please pause and get these written down. So here we have, it will not snow. The snowing part is the conclusion, but we have that not, making this a negated conclusion. Change it to the opposite. That's all negated means. A few more here. We're going to do the same thing. Okay? So move ahead, pause, move ahead and test yourself out, or make sure that you're pausing in between to make sure that I don't get ahead of you and then you get lost, right? You need to finish writing, push pause. If I go fishing, then I will catch a fish. So your hypothesis, I go fishing. Okay? Your conclusion, I will catch a fish. We're going to turn these to the opposite. So, your new hypothesis negated will be if I don't go fishing. Okay? Again, you can put do not. If I do not go fishing, don't. Doesn't matter which form you put that in. We still have that fishing as our hypothesis, but now we have that don't, that negated word, negative negated word. So that's all we've done between these. Now we need to change then I will catch a fish to the negated, the opposite. Then I will not catch a fish. Do not forget then. Always start with that. Okay, then I will not catch a fish. So we have that negated not, and the catching a fish was our conclusion part. We just made it the opposite. I did catch a fish, I don't catch a fish. Make sure you pause, please. Number 3, if you have a linear pair, then you have supplementary angles. Let's identify our hypothesis and conclusion. Hypothesis, do not include that word if. All we have is you have a linear pair. Our conclusion, after the word then, you have supplementary angles. We're going to rewrite this, leaving if then. We're just going to change it to the opposite. So instead of if you have a linear pair, we're going to say if you don't have a linear pair. Okay, if you don't have a linear pair. We have here linear pair being part of our hypothesis. So that's going to be the new hypothesis. Then let's turn the conclusion to the opposite. You have supplementary angles. Now you don't have supplementary angles. I'm going to go ahead and pause it to make the video shorter. I'm going to go ahead and write it. But we're writing then you do not have supplementary angles. So with this, our new conclusion, we see our negated word not. And our conclusion dealt with supplementary angles, so our conclusion still deals with the supplementary angles. We just have to enter that word, that negated word, that not. I strongly encourage you to try number 4 on your own. Pause it, try it on your own, okay? I am going to be pausing while I write so we don't have all that dead time. That's just silence. But let's go ahead and start. First, identify your hypothesis and conclusion. This is extremely important for all of these. Okay, whether it's converse, the biconditional, inverse, or what we're going to talk about, contrapositive. You need to identify the hypothesis and conclusion. So if two angles are complementary, then their measures add up to exactly 90 degrees. So our hypothesis, two angles are complementary. After the word if, all the way to the comma. Conclusion, after the word then. Conclusion is their measures add up to exactly 90 degrees. So we're going to take our hypothesis if two angles are complementary, and we're going to negate it if two angles are not complementary. Okay, so two angles are not complementary. I'm going to pause it while you guys write that down. Sorry, now it's sort of come on in the middle of that too. Tried to rush through that. So if two angles are not complementary, that not right there, okay? They were, now they're not. I negated it, made it the opposite. Shows my shows my inverse. And here we have the hypothesis is still in the same location. We just changed it to the opposite. Our conclusion, their measures add up to exactly 90 degrees. We need to change this to the opposite where the measures do not add up to exactly 90 degrees. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to say then, do not forget that word then, their measures do not add up to exactly 90 degrees. So we're just adding in a do not or a don't right here. Okay, so go ahead and write that out, pause it, and write that out for me. So this time I decided to use the word don't instead of do not. So you guys can see that it doesn't matter. They both mean the exact same thing, okay? But here the measure's adding up to exactly 90 degrees, and I didn't even add up to exactly 90 degrees. Sorry about that. The adding up to exactly 90 degrees was our conclusion, so we need to leave the measures adding up to exactly 90 degrees in the conclusion part. Just make it the opposite, right? So all we're doing is changing the hypothesis to the opposite and changing the conclusion to the opposite, saying the opposite thing. It is, now it's not. Or if it is not, we change it to is. And all of these we change to not. The last one that we need to talk about is your contrapositive. I need you to hang tight on the contrapositive, okay? The contrapositive I refer to as if your converse and your inverse had a baby. You have to perform both procedures. You have to switch your hypothesis and conclusion, and you have to negate both of them, okay? You have to do both. So you see up here, your contrapositive, okay? You're going to negate both. Or you can just look at it as the converse. Take the converse, switch them, and then negate both of them. That's what this is saying. Bottom line is you have to switch your hypothesis and conclusion, and you have to change it to the opposite. Okay? So let's try to get through this as painlessly as possible. If I jump in the water, then I will get wet. My hypothesis, I jump in the water. my conclusion, then I will get wet. I need to switch my P and Q, but also make them the opposite. So since I'm switching, I'm going to start with I will get wet. So we can say here, if we need to change I will get wet to the opposite, I will not get wet. So if, and I'm going to change it to do not get wet because it makes more sense. If I do not get wet, so it's going to sound a little bit different here, but honestly, if you just put if I don't get, or if I will not get wet, that's fine. Okay, we're looking at do you know what to do with these parts. So here I have my conclusion first, all right, with that negated word. Then let's take our hypothesis. I jump in the water, and let's do the opposite. I didn't jump in the water. So if I do not get wet, then I did not or didn't jump in the water. The biggest part here is making sure you see what words go with the hypothesis, jump in the water. What goes with the conclusion? Got to get wet. And making sure that we're doing the right thing. So here I have my negation, and jumping in the water was our hypothesis, so we've switched them and negated both of them. This one takes more time and a little bit more thinking. Okay? Please pause and make sure you're caught up. Rewind if you need me to hear me say something again. Okay? Example number 2, if a ball is thrown in the air, then it will hit the ground. So let's take a look. Our hypothesis, a ball is thrown in the air. Our conclusion, it will hit the ground. First things first, we need to make sure we switch them. So we're going to start off with the hitting the ground, right? So if, but we need to make sure we not only start with the hitting the ground, but we need to make it opposite. It will not hit the ground. So if, we could just say if, we'll just go ahead. It's not going to sound right, but you reword things, okay? If it will not hit the ground, comma, here we have hitting the ground as our conclusion, so we've switched it, and we have the negation as well. We have to do both parts. I know I repeat myself a lot, but hopefully you'll get it if I repeat it over and over again. The hypothesis, a ball is thrown in the air. We now need to negate it and say a ball is not thrown in the air. So here the second part is then, do not forget to write that in again, do not forget. Then a ball is not thrown in the air. Please pause it, make sure you have that copied. Again, a ball thrown in the air is going to be the the hypothesis part. We pulled it from the hypothesis, why I'm underlining it in the same color, and we have that negation. Now, to really make this sentence make sense, you would have to say, if a ball does not hit the ground, then it was not thrown in the air, something like that. But again, we're not grading you on the English part of it. We're grading you on, do you know to switch them, negate them, do both, etc. All right, 2 more. Let's get through this. I encourage you to try it on your own. If so, pause it. I'm going to pause while I write and then resume, so it's just going to pop up like it's been doing. All right. If an angle measures less than 90 degrees, then it is an acute angle. Hypothesis. An angle measures less than 90 degrees. Conclusion. It is an acute angle. We're going to switch them and negate them. So we're going to start off with being an acute angle, okay? Now I'm going to word this different. I'm going to say if an angle is an acute angle, okay, but I need to negate it. If an angle is not an acute angle. So that acute angle is the big thing, focus that we need to have at the beginning now. So if an angle is not an acute angle, and I said I was going to pause it, comma, so we see that acute angle that came from our conclusion, and we have it negated. So if an angle is not an acute angle, then We're taking that measures less than 90 degrees to a measure does not measure less than 90 degrees. So we can say then it does not measure less than 90 degrees. I'll repeat that one more time. It does not measure less than 90 degrees. I'm going to go ahead and pause it. It's going to pop up here in a second. Okay, and on this you can see I've already done my highlighting. And I don't remember exactly what I said, but it does not measure less than 90 degrees. Should be it, or the angle is not less than 90 degrees. One last one. We go back to Unit 1 with dilation. If I dilate a pre-image, then I create an image. So hypothesis, I dilate a pre-image. Almost done, guys. Conclusion, I create an image. No if or then in that. Okay, the if and then are going to stay put. So we're going to start off with, I need to take the creating an image, that's the conclusion, and I need to bring that to the front, but I also need to make it opposite. If I don't create an image. Okay, so if I don't create an image, we'll go ahead and write that down. It's going to pop up here in a minute. If I don't create an image. Here it is with the highlighting, seeing that my conclusion is now at the beginning, and it is also negated. Contrapositive. It's the longest word. You have to do the longest work between conditional, inverse, converse. Contrapositive is the longest word. You have to do the longest work for this. So now we're going to say then, we're going to take our hypothesis, I dilate a pre-image, and we're going to make it I don't dilate, or I didn't dilate. Look at the sentence. If I don't create an image, then, let's say didn't, then I didn't dilate a pre-image. Because saying if I don't create an image, then I don't dilate, you can use either one, okay? So we'll say, then I didn't dilate a pre-image. I didn't dilate a pre-image. It's going to pop up here in a second. This is what we should have. And we should see here that we've got our highlighting correct. We've switched the hypothesis and the conclusion. We have also negated both parts. I know it can get confusing. I know it went fast, but make sure, again, like I say on the videos, talk with your teacher, ask questions, stay for tutorials, whatever we need to do to make sure that we understand this completely.